interesting one. There aren't many regulatory hurdles here because regulation and regulatory support is quite nascent, actually. But the legal framework, be it the oil and gas law or be it the investment law or a myriad of other social support laws, are rather investor-friendly here, and we see many companies taking advantage. Iraq in general also has a very progressive investment law. It's still working on its oil and gas law, although we have seen many international oil companies make it to the market.
Primarily, what's your outlook for the relations between Kurdistan and Baghdad with respect to oil production and rights to it, exports, etc.?
Excellent. So you asked the fact question first, and then you went to the truth question. So I like that. In fact, let me speak a little bit about oil production in the Kurdistan region because it's quite an interesting success story. At the peak of export production happened in June or July of this summer, and the region was at approximately 180,000 barrels of export capacity a day, being produced mainly for oil fields here. It stabilized at 100,000 barrels a day for political and technical reasons, of which I can elaborate on. And currently, as we see Iraqi production and exports at their peak since 2003, the minister announced this week just under 3 million barrels a day of production now. We'll watch for the sustainability of that. I don't know if you've watched closely. The Rumaila oil field had several terrorist incidents against it last week, which took 650,000 barrels a day offline. I think they say it's back up about 250,000 barrels a day short now. But I think really the program of Iraq is to sustain 3 million barrels a day for 2012. The Kurdistan region, we hope, returns back to the 180,000 barrel a day level in 2012 and should have the opportunity to go to about 250,000 barrels a day of export quantity. At 250,000 barrels of export quantity, you're looking at another 60,000 barrels delivered to the local market for the refinery that I showed you. Plus, the Constitution clearly calls for revenue sharing to be determined by legislation, and that has not happened. In January of this year, the Baghdad government and the Kurdistan regional government came to an agreement that Kurdistan would begin exporting oil to the tune of 100,000 barrels a day on average, and 50% of the sales price of the barrel would be returned to the Kurdistan region to cover the costs for producing that barrel. I've heard the minister say in various venues that at the time there were somewhere just a little bit north of $1 billion of invested. Is that Baghdad wrote a check for about $1.5 billion after Q1 to international oil companies, both here to the KRG as well as to the ones in the south. And they said, oh my goodness, we just paid $1.5 billion. This is a major transfer and quite a bit of sticker shock. What they don't recognize is not a single one of those barrels, because their capacity before the international oil companies came in southern. There was a Q2 payment that did come to the KRG. It has been announced, but it did not follow the 50-50 split agreement from James. Is a sovereign red line issue for the Kurds. They see this as their right. They are willing to participate within an Iraqi system that recognizes their rights under the Constitution in oil and gas. This oil will get to market. How it will get to market has kind of taken on 2 iterations so far, and we'll see what the 3rd, 4th, and 5th are in the future. But I expect that if you will not see over the long term a limitation of this oil getting to international markets. And there are several paths for that to take place. Last night, I think everybody likes people to predict the future of Kurdistan and whether it becomes independent.
So what will happen now, and can you estimate some kind of timeline when they will be serving something on board for this one?
Excellent. And you mean local banks or international banks?
Local.
Local. The local banks are also excellent opportunities because they don't do a lot of what you're asking about. What I would say is they are great trade banks. They understand letters of credit. They understand how to facilitate you bringing TVs from Turkey. They understand how to facilitate you bringing sugar from Australia and those types. 7 months of payment history with the government, very smooth. There. I take all of that data to a local bank and say, I would like to take out project financing for this expansion. I'm willing to do it as, a syndicate of banks because $300 million is a lot of money. Or, how much of this risk are you willing to take? You generally find the answer to be zero. They'll quickly put you in front of the letter of credit guy who says, I want to do your successful business group or company under the previous regime in Iraq. You learned how to navigate in an ambiguous system, and you kept your financial records in ways that were ambiguous, and you kept corporate data and corporate strategy in ways that were ambiguous. So we're just now seeing a maturation in the market, I think, of companies recognizing that they now live and actually thrive within capitalist Iraq. Telecoms were required under their licenses. I think their licenses were 2 years ago. Maybe it's even been 3 now. I'm having so much fun, time is flying, that they're required to go public. And we really see that's going to be a game changer in the Iraqi stock exchange. So I think you'll see most business conglomerates allow the telecoms to go public, see how that plays out with them, and then within 12 months after that, I think you'll start seeing some real, if you'd like to be in contact. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have now a coffee break for around half an hour, so we should be all back on 11:15.
this is a dilemma for operators to keep the balance between the growth in customers and in ARPU. So I think we have made a very good job in maintaining our, from the Deputy of the Prime Minister for Energy Issues, Dr. Shahristani, that in 2017, this is 5-6 years from now, we reached 10 million barrels a day. But Iraq is not only about oil. And what we look here as the commercial activities, the market activities, the business in Iraq is not involving only in oil. And these are some very interesting data that between and other markets that are not only limited to oil and gas. In terms of the demographics, Iraq is a very young country. That makes a very big difference for mobile operators. I mean, Iraq is researches and data, but still this is a published public domain information from the Wireless Services and Wireless Cellular Services International. And the Iraq fixed market, and this is interesting, the Iraq fixed market is just below 5%. Even in 2015, it will not reach more than 5%. We look at some of the financial highlights for Asiacell. Asiacell has created a very steady and very good, stable growth in its years. Between 2008 till 2011, we have been increasing in subscribers numbers to 8.5, and this makes about 10 to 15